Speaking of severe weather, we've been covering this for the past several weeks here on the Carolina Weather Group, but the recovery from those deadly tornadoes that ripped across the southeast some 2.5 weeks ago, when we've been focusing a lot on Lee County, Alabama. You'll recall there that they lost 23 lives in those devastating storms. Well, our friends at the Sirens Project, they're an Atlanta-based storm chasing group, loaded up their equipment and organized a drive of supplies and drove them from Atlanta down to Lee County. They sent us this video to show us how the recovery efforts are ongoing.
All right, well, I'm going to toss it to James Brierton. James, along with some of our other panelists, was able to get together with our good friends, the Sirens Project, who you saw a little tease earlier in the show. And James, you guys had a great interview last night talking about all the things that they've been able to do down in the South.
Yeah, that's right, Scotty. A little bit earlier in the show, we reintroduced you to our friends at the Sirens Project, an Atlanta-based storm chaser group who, if you recall from the show we did with them last year, used drones to collect data and monitor storms. They went down to Lee County, Alabama, to help the folks devastated by the recent tornadoes there. And we started our interview last night by asking them, as Atlanta-based storm chasers, why did they feel compelled to go back to the hardest hit areas to help out those residents?
Well, basically, Chris can attest to this too. We were all chasing that day, and it was pretty early on when that supercell developed. We started getting reports of extreme damage and even a casualty situation. And we've done in the past help with Florence, Hurricane Florence in North Carolina, and Hurricane Matthew in the Panhandle, and so this disaster relief aspect of our projects, really starting to get some traction, and we're feeling, more and more compelled to do it.
We had breakfast all together over at the Renaissance at the airport in Atlanta the morning of. Just, I guess, walk the audience through how that day unfolded for you guys, I guess, during the day and where you were and that kind of thing.
Yeah, so basically, like Chris said, we started out in Atlanta, and then we started driving south towards Columbus, Georgia, and then it kind of seemed like more isolated supercell development was going to start taking place further to the south towards Dothan and Leary, Alabama, those smaller towns. And so we followed Chris for a while, and the ambulance isn't the fastest vehicle in the world, so at some point we kind of had to go our separate ways. We actually missed the Beauregard, Alabama tornado. We were focusing on the isolated cells further to the south. They went tornado warned. The two to the south that we were on went tornado warned. Didn't see any tornadoes. From what we could tell, a lot of it was definitely rain wrapped. The area of circulation and the area of interest, I guess you could say, was pretty rain wrapped. But yeah, the Mavic definitely gave us an edge to be able to see over the tree line and stuff like that. But on the drive home, it was just kind of like, we're going to be back out here, and we need to be back out here to help these people. So that's kind of how our day unfolded anyways.
With the rain that was ongoing at the time and stuff, I didn't want to chase rain-wrapped tornadoes across that kind of landscape. And, going south, it all works out. And, just glad I got to meet you guys, and you guys were able to do, some great work. But I kick it over to Melissa or Evan.
So I know in addition to the video that you've watched, you guys have provided with some images, one of them being this really just amazing image of this home structure that has been completely just leveled. There's just this wall that seems to be standing. Can you tell us a little bit about coming across some of the damage that you actually saw, and what is there a story behind this particular image?
The second day is when we actually went into Beauregard to do work. And the damage there, I mean, you could definitely tell it was EF4. I mean, it was very, very intense, a lot different than what we saw further east. And we actually came across this house. It looked very interesting. The foundation's completely cleaned off, and there's really nothing left at all on that slab except for that one outer wall standing, which was actually the front of the house. And we were able to talk to one of the relatives of the 4 people who survived in that house. And he was kind of telling us the story. It was all his cousins and nieces, I think. There's 4 people that took shelter in that house. And it's just incredible that, the wall that they were taking shelter against was the only wall in the entire house that stood. And what's interesting about that house, that street actually saw a lot of fatalities. About 10 fatalities on that street, including next door neighbors to that house and across the street. But that house is actually one of the reasons why the tornado was rated at EF4. It was a properly built home. It was 2 code, and there's a little bit of background on that house construction on Tim Marshall's Facebook page. And so it was a properly poured slab, and the walls were bolted to the concrete, but it just kind of goes to show that, I mean, that truly was a very intense tornado. And the fact that those 4 people were able to survive, I mean, that's a huge blessing for them, for sure. And, it's really just one of those moments where you kind of get overwhelmed almost by how powerful the storms really are. It really puts things into perspective.
Leah, I wanted to ask you a question. So what are your purposes and your goals in doing this post-storm response?
So our goals are just deliver supplies, whatever families need, identify what that need is, and give them what they need. A lot of it's just food, water, and clothing. So that's our number 1 goal, is to get down there and to see what's needed and provide what's needed. But then another goal is to kind of just clean up and help wherever we can. If that's going out and searching for family photos, and that's what we're going to do, and that's what we did the second day. The first day, we actually cut down trees and moved it to the road, because the county will only take within 20 feet of the property. They'll clean up anything that's within that 20 feet radius. So you have to get all the trees down there. So those are the two main goals: is the supply drop, and then just helping out wherever we can.
We have one more additional photo. It shows a dry lake bed that you guys were able to capture from your drone, and your drone that you use for storm chasing captures some really compelling images, but also has a mission, as I understand it, to capture data. So what from this event were you guys able to walk away with regards to images and data?
Our the data that we are after is barometric pressure, relative humidity, temperature, those sorts of things. But also our goal is to eventually be able to map in three-dimensional space wind, direction, and speed using basically what the inputs from the drone, or what the drone is responding to in the atmosphere. And this will hopefully allow us to sample wind speed and direction in the forward flank, of the storm, where there's not a lot of understanding what's happening in the supercell there. And the main component that we're after is vertical wind speed, and hopefully that the drone will be able to tell us a little bit about what's going on in that portion of the thunderstorm. But to go further on the lake bed, this was actually. When I first saw this in person, I was pretty taken aback. I mean, this right here, according to the locals, was a very popular fishing pond, stocked full of fish, and kind of everybody in the community would come around and fish that on a nice day. And this thing, it was slap full of water. I mean, to the brim. And after this tornado had passed, I mean, the damage path literally crosses the center of circulation. Crossed over this lake, and it is essentially completely dry. And so effectively the tornado had removed all of the water in this lake. And that was really incredible. And the locals said they couldn't even believe it too, when they kind of got their bearings after what had happened and realized, oh my gosh, the lake is completely dry now, and it's just pretty incredible. Like your average swimming pools, 5,000 gallons or so, or 5,300 gallons. And so you can imagine this, several square acre amount of water just being completely pulled out of where it was resting is pretty incredible.
And that's some really awesome stuff, guys. And before we wrap this up, I just want to give you guys a chance to plug all your social media stuff. And if folks want to follow you, how can they do that?
Oh, yeah, so our website is thesirensproject.com, and that's where we have a lot of more in-depth, I guess, kind of synopsis on our trips and on our projects, and it's constantly being updated now. And on Facebook, that's www.facebook.com/The Sirens Project. You can follow us on Instagram @Sirens Project and on Twitter @Sirens Project. So, it's basically the best way to kind of follow us along.
Awesome. And one more quick thing before we wrap this up. With your community relief efforts, are you guys partnering with any local organizations when you do stuff like this, or is it just kind of we're going head this up ourselves?
I guess it's kind of a little bit of both. So we like to really work closely with local churches, and that's kind of our main go-to. That's who His Hands Church in Woodstock is who supplied us for this trip, and I mean the response was overwhelming. The video talks a little bit about it, but I mean we just had 9,800 pounds of water. I mean just tons of canned food, and everything like that. But and that's on the supply side, but also on the more direct relief side. These local churches in these communities typically become the central hub, and they communicate very closely with the EMA and the forestry divisions of the county or of the state. And so churches are really our go-to kind of thing, because they generally supply a place to stay as well, which is really important. And one thing that we're trying to focus on is being a more immediate response, trying to be there as quickly as possible. It kind of goes in hand with storm chasing. If we're that close to the storms, initially, our hope is that we will be able to have a response time that's, very, very fast. Hopefully these smaller teams that we can put together can actually go into these areas a lot quicker. And that's kind of our main goal, is to be there as it happens or very shortly after. So.
Oh, that's great, man. Well, I want to thank you guys so much for taking the time to join us, and we really appreciate it. And I know the community appreciates everything that you guys are doing to help in relief after the fact. Just to have folks that are willing to take the time out of their lives to help others is really awesome. So thanks so much. And personally, anytime we're ready to chase again, let me know.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Awesome.
And that was our interview with the Sirens Project. Thanks to Warren, Brent, and Leah for their time. Now, if you want to learn more about the Sirens Project, we have a couple options for you. You heard their social media channels right there. We're also going to be uploading an extended version of that interview to our Patreon page for our patrons who help support and fund the Carolina Weather Group. And we did an entire show about the Sirens Project last year, and we're going to be re-airing that this Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern on the Carolina Weather Group Facebook channel, or you can find it right now on our YouTube channel.